Hello peoples, Wyan here, welcome back to Fullmetal Friday. It's obvious that Fullmetal Alchemist relies heavily on the age-old theme of the 7 deadly sins. Rarely mentioned, however, is the contrasting presence of the 7 heavenly virtues. Practicing them is said to protect against temptation, and observing them is what we will be doing in this episode. Before we start anything today, credit where credit is due. The green symbol in the video thumbnail, that does not belong to me. That does not belong to anyone associated with the Fullmetal Alchemist franchise. That was actually designed by a deviant on DeviantArt named Kayla. I'm going to link the original design and her DeviantArt account in the description below. She developed the symbol as well as the very interesting concept that goes along with it. So after you're done watching this video, go check that out. We all know about the 7 deadly sins introduced in Dante's Divine Comedy. In fact, in the very first 2 episodes of Fullmetal Friday was an analysis of the homunculi in the Divine Judgment, links to which can be found in the description below. Not a shameless plug at all. No. This analysis will be similarly split into 2 parts, just fair warning. But I don't want this series to be considered a sequel to the Divine Judgment series, because instead of pointing out each of the homunculi's personal foils, I'll be picking out the characters who, after strong consideration and reading similar comparisons by other fans, best embodies each virtue, whether that character had anything to do with the corresponding homunculus or not. Though while I was writing this episode, I thought it was pretty cool when it worked out that they did. I'm trying to stick with main characters, though. Although just like in the Divine Judgment series, I'm focusing on Brotherhood because this series was the one that follows Hiromu Arakawa's original vision. Sorry, 2003 fans. But what are the 7 heavenly virtues? Before getting into the meat of the episode, I'll do my best to explain in a somewhat timely manner, but you peoples know how I like to ramble. The set we know today originated from 2 sets of virtues: Aristotle's cardinal virtues of temperance, wisdom, justice, and courage, and the biblical or theological virtues of faith, hope, and charity. Round about 400 AD, the virtues were compiled by Aurelius Clemens Prudentius in the epic poem Contest of the Soul, the first literary example of the 7 virtues being used as direct contrasts to the 7 sins. Prudentius identified the 7 virtues as purity, charity, compassion, patience, temperance, humility, and diligence, whose opposing sins respectively are lust, greed, envy, wrath, gluttony, pride, and sloth. Because I can't come up with a way to say it better, I'm going to quote an article by Edge or Reason on WordPress that I will also link in the description. Most Gnostic beliefs state that everyone possesses all of these qualities, and the balance is key. Mercy without severity is weakness, severity without mercy is cruelty and oppression. Please keep these concepts in mind throughout the episode. So, now that we know what we're talking about, let's go, peoples. Purity is characterized by chastity, knowledge, honesty, and wisdom. Using Wikipedia's chart, because it was the best one that I found, purity is to be honest with oneself, family, and friends, and to all of humanity, and the ability to refrain from being distracted and influenced by hostility, temptation, and corruption. Also, education and self-betterment embraces moral wholesomeness and achieves purity of thought. When I think pure-hearted in Fullmetal Alchemist, I think Alphonse.
This is the devil.
Throughout the series, we see so many shocking discoveries happen in front of Al, and Al is always the last to figure it out and the most shocked by it. One prime example is episode 4 in Alchemist's Anguish. Edward figured out very quickly what Tucker had done, but Al was nearly oblivious at first. This is not because Al is slow on the uptake or any less attentive by any means, but because in his innocent mind, and for all of his moral wholesomeness, he just can't fathom such horrific things on his own. Now, on the note of not being distracted and influenced by corruption, he did, in a moment of weakness, allow himself to be manipulated, Barry the Chopper, into believing that he was a manufactured pseudo-soul in episode 8, The Fifth Laboratory. However, it was the pure, unbreakable love he shared with Edward that allowed him to overcome this atrocious lie. From that point on, his will and determination were stronger than ever. Instead of allowing himself to be corrupted by his anger towards Scar in episode 28, Father, he laid it aside for the sake of May's safety.
You would allow me to escape, even though I'm the one responsible for the deaths of your friend's parents?
Yeah, well, I'd rather beat you senseless, and it makes me sick to have to ask you for help. But right now, we need to save this girl's life.
What do you plan on doing?
The virtue of purity is the foil of the sin of lust. In episode 19, Death of the Undying, Al insisted on fighting the homunculus lust in defense of Hawkeye, and shielded the lieutenant from Mustang's fire as the homunculus was incinerated. Charity is characterized by will, benevolence, generosity, and sacrifice. It is the sense of unlimited loving kindness towards others and the residing will to be generous. I can't think of a better embodiment of this virtue than Pinocchio Rockbell. Though she might come off as abrasive and harsh, there's no one she won't accept. There's something to be said for anyone who dedicates their life to any medical field with the motivation of bettering the lives of others, and even more for that person to raise 2 generations of the same. After Trish's death, it was Pinocchio who took Edward and Alphonse into her home as if they were her very own grandchildren. After they left on their quest, she made a home for them where there was none.
Rockbell, you speak of the Elrics as though they were your grandsons.
Of course, I've been watching over them since they were born. I'm a friend of the family, you see. The boy's father is an old drinking pal of mine. One day, he up and left the village, abandoning his wife and sons. I don't even know whether he's alive now or not. So who are these?
Episode 46, Looming Shadows, when Edward's entire gang shacked up at the Rottbell place, she had no questions, other than maybe who are these hooligans, and gave them all food and shelter for as long as they needed it. Charity is the foil of greed, and the homunculus greed was one of the many she accepted into her home without a second thought.
What? Oh, right. I guess you know this guy.
Compassion is characterized by satisfaction, loyalty, kindness, and integrity. It is charity and friendship for its own sake, empathy and trust without prejudice or resentment, unselfish love and voluntary kindness without bias or spite, and having a positive outlook and cheerful demeanor. I don't think there's a single character more loyal, kind, empathetic, trustworthy, or cheerful than Maze Hughes. Boisterously smiling and waving the first time we meet him in episode 1, he gave Ed and Al a place to stay while in Central. During their stay, he was visually saddened by the thought of someone as young as Edward having to endure military life. The brothers aren't the only ones he gave a home away from home. In episode 9, Created Feelings, he invited Winry to his beautiful daughter Alicia's birthday party, where he imparted words of comfort and wisdom.
Just what am I going to do with you? In general, men prefer to let their actions speak instead of words. When they're in pain, they don't want to burden anyone with it, not if they can help it. They don't want anyone to worry about them. That's how they are. Even so, there may come a time when they'll ask for your help. And when they do, I know that you'll be there for them. Isn't that enough?
When it comes to loyalty, no one, save for Hawkeye, of course, was more loyal to Mustang and dedicated to pushing the Flame Alchemist to the top than Hughes. And his dedication as a husband and father was literally his reason for living. Now, peoples, I swear I didn't do this on purpose. It just worked out this way. The virtue of compassion is the foil to the sin of envy. We have to talk about this, do we? No? Okay. Well, peoples, what a note to end on, right? I will see you next week for another Full Metal Friday and part 2 of the Heavenly Virtues series. Or if you don't want to wait a week to see my silly face, tomorrow is a Saturday Showdown. Bye-bye!